And this is a very timely topic. So thank you, Peter.
You bet. Okay, Erik, how about you?
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Peter, for having us participate in the panel. It's always an honor to work with you, and welcome to the other guests. So at jobadvertising.com, what we do is we help colleges, universities, and nonprofits strategically advertise their jobs to recruit the best talent to work at their institutions and organizations. So we work with thousands of job boards, and we are able to advise employers based on our analytical data and our historical performance of each of the job boards that we work with, where the best places are to advertise their particular jobs to find the best talent. So our slogan is the easiest way to recruit and hire, and that's what we seek out to do every day for hundreds of colleges and universities and nonprofits that we work with.
Great. Well, as you both intimated, we're gonna dig into a topic that's challenging a lot of people. But you have to ask yourself, is this a new challenge? I mean, there are no lack of blog posts and other commentary online about how this is a constrained or limited talent market. But, you know, we've been talking about the war for talent since the McKinsey report back in the late 1990s. So is this just a continuation of that trend, or are we seeing something different? What do you think, Ken?
Well, our forte is the physician and advanced practitioner profession, and serving the needs of healthcare organizations from, forgive me, don't know what's going on there, but healthcare organizations from critical access hospitals, federal qualified health centers to the nation's largest universities. So it's a wide gamut. Plus, every physician is a unique individual, but the term physician is a broad term that encompasses more than 150 different specialties and subspecialties. So when you need that specialist, another specialist won't do. And so, but it's, since I've been in physician recruitment for a little over 30 years, that shortage has been constantly present, and a whole industry has grown up to serve that particular niche through a variety of different means. It started with classified advertising in medical journals. Search firms came on later in the 60s and 70s, I believe. Then job boards in the early to mid 90s, and we know since then we've gone through social media. Now we're going into AI, and everybody wonders how these things are going to change, how we find these precious resources. And, you know, a lot of the fundamentals remain the same, I think, over all 3 decades, that it's about human connection. It's about a good fit. And in physician recruitment, that fit often involves the spouse. So if you're bringing in a qualified physician who meets all the criteria, the spouse also and the family also have to feel like it's a good fit for them as well. And so a lot of physician recruitment is often regional and national and versus local. And that also plays a role in it. So there's career fairs, there's specialty conferences, there's all these different venues which the physician recruitment community tries to source candidates in. Now, I can pause there and turn it back to you, Peter.
Erik, what do you think?
I think, Peter, it's really good that you mentioned the study from back in 1998. And that issue has been around for quite a while. But I think obviously the major thing that's changed how we help employers and how employers are having to search for talent is the pandemic. So one of the things that we see, we work with colleges and universities, and there's been this shift to, the desire for remote work. And so what colleges and universities have to do that's changed since the pandemic, I think, is they have to market themselves more to the job seekers. For years, it was always the job seekers with their resumes pretty much marketing to work at Harvard or to work at University of Arizona. And because of the shortage that we're talking about here today, I think employers need to think how to differentiate themselves, how to stand out from other employers. A lot of times, if you don't hire that faculty professor or a dean, it's not that they went across country. They a lot of times they've gone to another employer right in your state or sometimes right in your city. So it's how well you're able to differentiate yourself to let to let job seekers know, hey, we're different. We offer these different things beyond just salary and bullet points in a job listing. So I think that's been a major shift that we've seen. They've got to think more like marketers and branders and ways to differentiate themselves.
Well, you've both made some great points. I think, whether we're talking about physicians or we're talking about deans and college administrators, there are two dynamics that are pretty much at work that I think are relatively new. And the first, of course, is that the whole boomer population is on its way to the exits. We're going to lose a sizable number of that generation. And in addition to the brain drain, there's been a lot written about that. There's just a lack of participation. In fact, and this is the other dynamic, the participation rate in the United States is at its lowest ever. So just over 60% of the workforce is now working or looking for a job, which is a historically low figure. So we're losing people at an unprecedented rate, and the people who could be working aren't, at least not as many of them as has been traditionally. So I would argue that this is the war for talent on steroids. I mean, it is a much more challenging environment than recruiters have ever faced. And for them, the issue is that their bosses and the C-suites are reading about all these layoffs and how many people are in the job market and so forth. So there's this sense among upper management in many cases that, hey, it's now as easy as shooting fish in a barrel to be able to recruit. And that's just not true. And to help me make that point, we're delighted to have Cindy Songne join us. As I mentioned, Cindy's at JobVite. Cindy, the rest of us have introduced ourselves, but we're going to pause for just a moment and let you introduce yourself as well.
Very good. Perfect timing. Thank you so much. I am not technically challenged, but it wouldn't, I couldn't prove that this morning, right? My name is Cindy Songne. I have been in the industry for more years than I admit. I have always been in talent acquisition. I am a talent acquisition strategist consultant for JobVite clients, not for JobVite talent acquisition, which a lot of candidates confuse me for. I work with our larger enterprise and larger mid-market clients, optimizing their strategy and their online and offline processes, all having to do from advertising through onboarding. Anything I can do to help them improve, that's what we do. As far as what Employ does, we are a group of, we work with SMB all the way through large global clients with Jazz HR, Lever, JobVite, and then our RPO, which is Next Thing. And that's across, we have about 16,000 clients across all kinds of industries.
Great. Thank you. That's perfect. So we've just been discussing the nature of the talent shortage, and I think we've all agreed that whether it's highly specialized physicians or it's people in the higher education community who have new expectations, new requirements for work, all of that rolled together with a lower participation rate in the workforce means that it's a very challenging talent market. And what I'd like to talk about now is another data point, and that is a recent survey from CompTIA. They do a job seeker survey every year, and they found that just 27% of the workforce is now actively looking for a job. So let's talk about that cohort first. Are these so-called active job seekers different from those that we have been chasing in the past? Are they looking for different things, pay transparency, remote work, and so forth? Or are they looking for a different kind of information in the job posting? So, Cindy, let's start with you. What are you seeing?
I believe that, and I spent many years in the newspaper where you had to be very careful about how many words you used, because the more you use, the more lines, the more your rate would be. But I think candidates are looking for the same basic things in a job advertising. I don't think they're looking for different things. I think they're looking for something outside of the job advertising. But as far as the advertising, I think they want actually more information. They definitely want to know about pay. They want to know about career advancement, stability, maybe something a little bit about the brand. But I think now, we talked years ago, we would talk about the work environment. This is what you can expect. Right now, I think they're looking for, they want to know if it's remote, hybrid, or whatever. I think that's the biggest change, in my opinion. But I really don't think they're looking for anything different in a job posting other than information. I think they probably want to know, am I going to be happy there? But you can't do that through a job posting.
Erik?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen that's changed, Peter, is we have to, and I mentioned the pandemic earlier, there's a big shift that happened during the pandemic that we all were doing at that time. We were listening more and more to podcasts. We were listening more to our audio and things like that. So at job advertising, we can help employers advertise in newspapers, job boards. Well, what we're also doing now is helping employers advertise in an audio medium, because that's going to reach people in a casual way when they're not necessarily actively looking for a job, but they're listening to their favorite podcast. So they're not actively on a job board or in a newspaper, but it gives employers another way to kind of get in their brain, actually, while they're doing whatever they love, and that's listening to whatever they're listening to. And as you guys know, there's millions of people every day listening to a variety of podcasts. And I think that's a real avenue that's going to grow and grow and grow in terms of job advertising.
And how about the docs? What do you think?
I think what Erik brings up is resonates with me. We 6 months ago, we started sponsoring a podcast for orthopedic surgeons, the Upper Hand, and a lot of this is new to us, and we want to do a great deal more with it. I think, Peter, I'm a shameless plug here, but I never forgot this book that you wrote. I think the principles in this book still hold true, and I think that I'm thinking it's not in print right now, but I have a few precious copies that I give to my management team whenever they join the company. And so, and that brings up another point. I'm also an employer, so I feel the pain of the shortage, as we all do. And it is, we are headquartered in a small town, but we also have an office in a big city. So we feel that pain both places equally. And so I think it's, especially when now competing. So we've had larger, more big city companies reaching into our small town, happy to hire remote workers. So increasing the competitive landscape from that standpoint. I think the point you make in your book about employer brand is very important, and that before we start reaching out for more customers and more revenue, we need to make sure we're taking care of the customers we have. And in addition, I would say that about employees and recruitment too. If we're not taking care of our employees first, recruitment is that much more difficult. So I think that keeping the culture healthy is something we invest a lot of time and energy in. And in the healthcare marketplace, I think that is a unique challenge. I think you can't let the desperation for talent bring down your culture. I think somehow, some way, you have to figure out a way to stay strong with respect to your employer brand and your culture. But the employer brand, I think, still carries a great deal of weight, whether it's audio, digital, print, whatever the medium. That employer brand is foundational.
Thank you for mentioning my book. The fact that it's out of print would be some hint that perhaps it's no longer a bestseller. But I do
highlighted. It's dog-eared. It's everything. So.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I do want to kind of take off on one of the points that you made. We see a lot of turnover in the recruiting workforce. So a lot of the lessons that we have learned previously, we have to reteach ourselves on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're really using best practices. So I'd like to, for just a second, hone in on the job posting itself for that 27% of folks who are actively looking for a job. And it just seems to me that the state of the art for job postings is a sine curve. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. And what we have to do to get it back up to the apex is to keep reminding ourselves of best practices. And there is a new dynamic going on here, and that is that attention spans have really shortened significantly. And so have job seeker expectations. Cindy, you touched on this. I mean, people in the workforce today and in the job market today have very different and pretty strongly held expectations about what they want to see in a job posting. I mean, words like requirements and responsibilities are words only a lawyer could love. So, we need to think about our vocabulary. But given that short attention span, I think we need to potentially reimagine the job posting to make it more like an electronic sales brochure. And if you pick up any marketing literature, Erik, as you were saying, we need to think like marketers. If you pick up a piece of marketing literature, what you're going to find is that the value proposition is always front loaded. You get it first because you can never count on them to read the rest of the brochure. So I think we have to do the same with our job postings. We have to figure out what is the most persuasive couple of elements of our value proposition for a particular job. And we need to front load that in the job posting, which is the antithesis of what you get when you use a position description for a job posting. So I'd just like to add that as we think about today's talent shortage, we have to be better at using that very common, widely used instrument of the job posting in a much more effective way. So let's talk. We already have talked about some other strategies, and Ken, your point about keeping your own employees engaged and satisfied, I think that's spot on. But what other strategies and tactics do you think might work in this environment where we don't have enough talent to go around, in addition to job advertising? Any thoughts? Ken?
To me, Peter, sorry. I think on a macro scale, what recent changes at Google over the last couple of years have been very disruptive to niche job boards, is my feeling. And where the rules were set for several years, those rules have changed. And in the, I've read different opinions and not an expert on the topic, but Indeed ranking #1 for many job searches across many professions is interesting when it comes to physician recruitment. It's not, there are no disrespect to Indeed, but there are many niche job boards in the physician marketplace that are a better place for physicians to look for a job. So whatever the Google algorithm's doing there is not serving things well. The Google Jobs widget, however, is serving things well. And it'll be interesting to see. I think there's been speculation about how Google may choose to monetize the Google Jobs widget. And that is yet to be seen as far as I know. But so I think we have to come up with a way of standing on our own 2 feet, not being reliant on any third party. I think that for us, for forever and ever, we published a magazine, an award-winning magazine that goes out to 100,000 residents and fellows every quarter. We publish a client newsletter that tries to advise them on how to get the most out of PracticeLink and their strategies and tactics. And this goes out quarterly to about 5,000 employer-based in-house recruiters. We publish a job search guide for first-time job seekers too. So these are traditional means that are accessible digitally as well. But we integrate video with our job postings. We have virtual career fairs. We have live career fairs. We have a strong social media presence. But there is so much noise, and the noise seems to be snowballing, not getting. I think we're going through some kind of period of time where that everything, not only is the talent, maybe that's part of it, is the talent's harder to get, and it's creating a frenzy. Everybody trying everything to get what they need to do their jobs.
Erik, what do you think?
Well, I like what Ken just said about video. We're big fans of video, and also to which you said, Peter, you've got just a very limited amount of time to grab that job seeker's attention. And I think a 15-second video that can be placed on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, can be very effective to driving someone to the larger job listing, where they can see all, like you said, the bullet points of salary and requirements and things like that. There's also some technology on some job boards that we use where we are able to embed a video on the job listing. And I think, Ken, you may have touched on that as well. We've seen a lot of success with that in terms of the number of times that those ads are clicked. So I think as we get to a younger job seeker audience, video is what they've grown up with. That's what they're used to, and I do think that's a great hook to blast out, grab people's attention, and get them to your larger details of what the job listing is all about.
Cindy?
I'm going to take a completely different approach.
Oh,
And,
I wouldn't. I'm
shocker.
surprised.
Right. And I'm also going to do a Peter Weddle quote. And on my large monitor here, I have several quotes that I love, or just things that I've come across. And this one is: the greatest impediment to success is habit. We do what we know, limiting ourselves to our past experiences. One thing that I do every single morning is I start my day by reading. And I'm an old-fashioned headhunter. My first job out of college, long time ago, was a headhunter. I absolutely loved it, but I had no life. So because I was doing it 24/7. I still do the same things the same way, but I'm using new tools. And I think that's what a good recruiter does. I think they will my first thing when somebody says, I'm either looking for a job or I'm looking for a candidate, I will go to my network. It's just like, I will almost look in my side drawer here which I don't have anymore, but full of applicants. And who is that right applicant, or who are those top applicants? So I'm always going to go to what I know first. So a CRM for an employer. But then before placing any advertising, not that it's a bad thing because I place plenty of it, I'll go to what I know. I will do all of my searching. I will go to, if I have any databases, I'm going to look at databases first. I'm going to do all of those things first. If there's new technology, I'll listen to not anybody that has new technology, because I get those kind of invitations all the time. If something truly is new and unique, I'm going to listen to it because I might want to use it at some point. So I'm always going to go back to not what I know, but old practices with new tools. But I still will focus on that goal of, finding that one person or whatever it is. So there's also there's a new company that I used to joke that when I get tired of corporate world, I'm going to get a LinkedIn license and go back to headhunting. Now I say there's a company by the name of Sinecure AI, and it's the coolest technology because it's LinkedIn on steroids, and it shows it's AI based, which I know AI many times equals BS, but it's still a startup. It is a platform where you can search blog posts, social media, LinkedIn, all of them, all in one, and it serves it back to you. And it's kind of like when the internet first started, we thought it was cool. We had everything right there. This actually does it, and it's very pinpointed, and it saves a lot of time. So that's what I'm going to do when I quit my corporate job: get a Sinecure license and go back to headhunting. There's my new tip.
I'd like to throw out a couple of ideas, and they do. Well, thank you for that input. They do relate to something that you just said, Cindy, and that is, I'd like to make a plea for the silver medalist. The person who didn't quite get selected the first time around. He or she typically only missed out by the smallest of margins. They're great prospects. They're probably lost somewhere in your ATS database, but they are potentially great alternatives to consider. And then also, I think we need to be more proactive about referral networks. You're sitting on top of, in your organization, your employer base is potentially, an entire cohort of recruiters, and their contacts, their relationships, their connections could potentially really serve you well. And we talk about referrals all the time. If you do a survey of recruiters, they're always the number one. They're always cited as the number one best source in terms of quality, at least among recruiters. But at the end of the day, a lot of organizations just simply don't get around to it. It doesn't have the priority that I think it deserves. So those are two other ideas that folks may want to consider.
Can I just add that goes back to something Ken said earlier? And you have to, when I'm doing consulting, we don't do employer branding, but I will always ask a client, let's do an audit of your brand. Because if their brand sucks and they don't know how to share that, they don't know how to market it, all the tech in the world, all the advertising in the world is not going to do any good at all. So I think employer referral program, absolutely. But they have to have that employer brand so that your employees actually want to refer people to come to work in that same environment.
Absolutely. Point well made. So we've been talking about, and I'm going to hear from social media about what I'm about to say, but we've been talking about the 27% that are the low-hanging fruit in the job market. We only have a couple of more minutes, but in our final couple of minutes, what are your thoughts about how do you reach out to this population that is always mischaracterized as passive job seekers? They aren't passive at all. They're just active in a different way. But the people who aren't necessarily proactively out there in transit looking for a new job, what advice do you have on how best to reach that population? Ken, I suspect there's a lot of that in the physician market. What do you think?
So in the past few years, shout out to my wife and son, watching 8-year-old going to a school with many physicians' parents in his class. And I've gotten to know them on a personal level through the last couple of years, and what they've shared with me, the personal relationship between physician and physician, from employer to employer, it takes precedence over all. I think the touch points that we've touched on here, audio, video, digital, I think keeping those touch points, keeping the logo and the awareness in front of folks is very important. I think that what I've come to understand is they'll shop the job boards. Attribution becomes a challenge for everyone, because they'll shop the job boards, but they'll reach out through their personal network to actually make the inquiry. And that is kind of disruptive to analytics. There's no way so how do you track attribution in that circumstance is something that we're trying to work on. But through data intelligence, we're able to do so much more beyond the scope of a few years ago. I mean, pretty much when somebody's come to your job board, when they've come back to your job board, where they went after your job board. These things are business intelligence that we have to respect privacy, and we do. We don't share a lot of that information, but it is a big part of what we've invested in the last couple of years. And so it goes beyond retargeting, and it goes into understanding some behaviors and things of that sort. But but our clients, our employers, they need the intelligence that we can provide as well. I think they need to know all three of us and others are in a better position to, they see some things that we can't see. We see a lot of things they can't see. And I think capturing those metrics and finding a healthy way to make a positive impact with those metrics is an exciting part of what is also happening now behind the scenes. I'll go back to you, Peter.
Erik, what do you think?
Well, I think what Cindy said is a really good point in terms of, and you mentioned it as well, Peter. We have to energize and educate the employees who are already there to carry the brand message, right? So they have to, as Cindy said, have an excitement about not just saying, yeah, we do this here and I like this here, and we have a softball game, every month in the summer. They've got to be equipped with this information and excited about being a brand, evangelist and an advocate for wherever they work. So, I think that's important, not to just say, okay, yeah, we'll tap that referral network. They've got to actually have some tools and materials and I don't want to say incentive. We don't want to start paying people extra to say, yeah, it's great to work here, but they've got to, to fully be engaged and a full participant and helping elevate the brand of an employer. We've got to, I'm not going to say we, because we work on behalf of employers, but the employers have to do more to energize folks who are already in the fold, so to speak.
Okay, Cindy, you get the last word.
As far as reaching candidates who are considered truly passive candidates, I'm a fan of content marketing, and I don't care if it's at the recruiter level, just posting on LinkedIn and keeping me interested in a company, or I think it was Erik that mentioned advertising a video on a podcast. I think anything like that, but it has to be, since we're in TA, we always name everything, maybe quiet selling, but it's keeping me interested in the company without hitting me over the head saying, here's a job posting. No, get me interested in the company. Let me learn about your company so that I on my own will seek it out. Or if I see something and it's like, that's a company I've been reading about for months or seeing things for months, and I'm going to check them out. Not even looking, but let me check them out. That's where I think it is. And it goes back to recruiters being marketers, being salespeople. I think it's through content marketing.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our program. For all of you who have been listening and watching, I'm sure that you have gained as much from the wisdom of these three folks as I have. It's been a wonderful session. I'd like each of you all, in closing, to please just tell the people in the audience where they can connect with you and or your company, so that if they'd like to follow up, they can. So Ken, where can folks connect with you?
Sure. PracticeLink.com is our flagship website, on LinkedIn, and Ken Allman or PracticeLink on LinkedIn, and at many different medical conferences throughout the country throughout the year. And if you're ever in the neighborhood of St. Louis, Missouri, or Hinton, West Virginia, which is America's newest national park, stop by and see us.
All right. Erik?
Awesome. Thank you to all of the audience members and to Peter and all of the other guests. This has been fantastic. So to reach us, you would go to jobadvertising.com. And to reach me directly, you can reach me at erik@jobadvertising.com. It's Erik with a K. And I just think, as Ken said, you'll see us around the country at Coupa HR conferences, at nonprofit organization conferences. We love being out there, meeting folks face to face. So if you're at a conference, be sure to check us out, and we'd love to help you with your recruiting and hiring needs.
Great. And Cindy?
I think the easiest way to reach me, because my name is a little funky and everyone always spells it wrong. So just go to Cindy Songne at LinkedIn. It's just easiest that way. Company JobBite, you can look at JobBite, Jazz HR, Nexing RPO, or lever.com.
Well, my thanks to all of you. It's been a wonderful program, and I'd like to thank those of you in the audience for joining us today for a TAtech digital roundtable. And please come back for our next program in the next month. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks.